revenue. Thank you, sir.
I call the honourable member Phil Twyford.
Thank you, Mr Chair. I want to highlight in these closing stages a group of people who will be severely disadvantaged by the passage of this legislation, sir. A number of them made submissions to the Select Committee, and their concerns have not been alleviated, and they fear that with the passage of this legislation, the provisions that shift the charging of the road user charges from a nominated weight to the gross weight will threaten the viability of their businesses. And in the case of one of the submitters, the New Zealand Motor Caravan Association, they believe that a substantial number of the 40-odd thousand members who travel around this country in motor caravans are going to be paying substantially more because they typically have vehicles that have a heavy gross weight, and those vehicles are very rarely, if ever, laden to their full capacity. And in their submissions, Mr Chairman, they point out that typically a vehicle of a mass of about 19,600 kilograms would currently be paying $121 for 1,000 kilometres. And under these changes, they will be up for an increase of about $330 on top of those charges, according to the submission by the Motor Caravan Homes Association. That is an outrageous increase, 270%. They believe there's no justification for it, and this will weigh very heavily on, as I said, the 40-odd thousand individuals who are members of the Motor Caravan Homes Association, and the New Zealand Motor Caravan Association, I should say. There were also a number of submitters, principally small business owners, who submitted that this change would have the effect of making their businesses no longer viable. And I want to read the House one or two quotes from the submission by Southern Trucking Limited, who operate 4 6x4 tractors and 2 8x4 truck and trailers around the country. If this law passes, the company that my wife and I started with one truck 7 years ago and have poured our heart and soul into will no longer be viable.
Off to Aussie.
Yep, that's right. Off to Aussie. Off to Aussie. McLean Road Services, who specialise in transporting large loads like fiberglass swimming pools around the country that are up to 5 metres wide. They have large vehicles to do this, but they are never fully laden. And therefore the impact of this change, which will hit them up for road user charges calculated on the gross weight of the truck, will amount to, they believe, a huge increase. And I quote from Don McLean, the proprietor, "Our margins are thin now, and if I have to pay road user charges for the gross weight, it probably won't be viable." Finally, Mike Hermanson says the method currently proposed for the bill would disadvantage operators carrying lighter loads, would negate the use of multi-axle units that operators have currently in their fleets. These units have been specifically built with more axles to be easier on our roads. If you move to gross weights, these units will be disadvantaged and operators will no longer use them. So it's a great shame, Mr Chairman, that these objections were not listened to by the majority on the Select Committee. The government has ridden roughshod over the concerns that opposition members on the committee raised throughout the process, through all readings to this point. The government has failed to take on board those concerns, and the passage of this bill will impose a terrible burden on many small businesses around this country who cannot sustain the kind of costs that this bill will add to their bottom line. So, sir, I don't believe that the government and the majority on the Select Committee have adequately considered the consequences, but albeit unintended, of this change, and they should do.
Mr. Chairman.
I call the Honourable Minister, Jerry Brownlee.
Mr. Chairman, I feel I need to respond to Phil Twyford's concerns